tens of millions of people.
Bill Gurley is now on the line. Another one of our bestie guesties. Bill, thanks for joining us. You heard the question being teed up here. This is neck and neck. This is not something anybody, at least pollsters, came anywhere close to predicting. And Chamath's question, I think, is a really valid one. Who is got a greater chance of bringing the country back together and maybe leading from the middle and maybe healing this wound? Because this has been the worst 4 years, I believe, in any of our lifetimes in terms of the anxiety and the anger between people who used to be able to
What
have
a
dinner
loaded
together.
Question.
Totally.
Well, I want to know Bill's opinion because,
by the way, Bill Gurley
Bill
is the
is not
best
coastal
VC.
No.
Jason, Bill Gurley
so-
is the best venture capitalist in the world.
Phil,
Give him
Phil.
a proper introduction.
Phil, stop hijacking our fucking broadcast. Go ahead, Gurley.
So thanks for having me on. I think you guys have done a really good job of breaking down why people have misestimated this thing. There was there's such a rural urban split. There was a really good New York Times Daily podcast about 2 weeks ago where they interviewed rural Democrats in Pennsylvania that had switched to Trump, and all the voices they echoed were very similar to what Brad walked through with his mother. And so I do think there's a true lack of empathy for the center states and the rural areas from the coastal elites. And I'd say part of breaking any of it down would be somehow trying to separate that. I think a bigger issue that has really been on my mind lately is just how tribal everyone's gotten. And I've come to believe that the way you can probably just ruin your mind the most is to just join a tribe and quit thinking about things. And the number of people I know on both sides that have run off to their tribe is shocking to me. And it's just not a way to go about being smart, because, and if anyone that makes fun of a religion that's extreme or something, it's all the same shit. Like, you're just believing dogma for the sake of it. So one of the things that I worry about a Trump victory is just very tactically in my life, and maybe it's part of living in California, but a whole bunch of people and things that I want to get solved become more manic if he wins, like my kid's school and the companies that I work with and COVID. Quite frankly, I think that we can't get past COVID with Trump because the TDSers are so convinced that it has to be problematic. And it's just, so I don't know the exact path to solve it, but I do worry about just being in a world where everyone hates each other. And it just doesn't seem solvable that way.
Well, this is why I think, this scenario, which we've called the soft landing, where let's say you had a Biden victory by 2 electoral votes, the Republicans hold on to the Senate. I think the radical left gets a big, I'd say, rebuke or a shock. And we have basically divided government in Washington, but it takes the whole temperature down because, Trump gets replaced by Biden, but you've kind of got, basically Joe and his old pal Mitch are in a power sharing arrangement in Washington. It could be a really good situation for the country for the next 4 years. Temperature would go down. There'd be kind of this, healing process, if you will. But there wouldn't be a whole lot of new sort of legislation that we have to worry about. I think we would get what we want, which is the ability to ignore Washington for 4 years.
Yeah, but we wouldn't get a solution to really what ails us, which is the fact that there's all these people that just feel completely shut out. And I that really bothers me at some very basic level, which is like, I just think like, I fought my family, my parents, just escape some third world fucking shithole to go to Canada. And, Canada gave us a lot, but it still wasn't enough for me. I crawled and scratched to get into the United States. Things work out, but I don't feel like I have a right to all of a sudden, I don't know, just like look down on other people or make people feel like shit or not allow people to...
Do you actually think, Chamath, that Biden is going to do that? Or do you think Biden's going to be...
No, but Jason, I think...
the middle ground
no.
who collaborates with the Republicans in the Senate and the Congress?
No. What I'm saying is, independent of what happens, we're going to have basically, we're going to have a photo finish. And what Brad said is right. The fact that we are in a photo finish means that there are a lot of people in pain. And I think we have a responsibility to get our heads out of our asses and stop this sanctimonious, holier than thou bullshit. I agree with Brad. When he says that, it really hits a nerve with me because I feel like there are a lot of people, we work with them all, it's rife within the tech culture, and all these fuckbags think they know what they're talking about all the time. And we're doing a disservice to so many Americans. And we need to wake up. And that's what bothers me. The idea that there are so many people who feel like they're just getting so fucked really bothers me. That bothers me. So I can ignore Trump. I'll ignore his bullshit because honestly, he's done nothing. He will do nothing. He is a complete fucking void. But whether it's Trump or Biden in a 270, 268 election, the fact that so many people still use this guy as a vessel, I don't know, that makes me more upset.
I think some people, everyone has some degree of empathy to the problem. I think there are different points of view on the solution, which is where this stuff gets realized. The one point of view is we should have less government involved in our lives and our businesses. And the other point of view is we should have more support and help from the government. And that's where things diverge very quickly. It doesn't feel to me like anyone in politics is necessarily ignoring what you're highlighting. And I don't think anyone in America does, from the rich to the poor to the left to the right.
Yeah, I think the solutions are miscast because, for example, like what are we supposed to do like with our higher educational institutions, the people that are churning out all these folks that are meant to go and collaborate and find middle ground? I mean, I clearly, like all of this says, our educational facilities are completely failing from grade school all the way through to high school, community college, grad school. It's all just a contrived piece of shit, right? We are completely putting out 1 in 2 people for failure. Okay, so that much is clear. So I don't see politicians fixing that on either side of the aisle. I'm honestly, what are we supposed to do?
Well, I mean, look, might I just suggest that 2 things. Number one, I think in these results that you see, there's there is extraordinary frustration, right, with this with the state of affairs. The fact that Trump, in the middle of COVID, after 4 years of torturous anxiety-inducing tweets, could even be in a neck-to-neck race to win this election tells you, right, how devastatingly bad people feel about how they're being treated. I think that, I said recently, we have to redraft the social contract. This idea, we've been living under a social contract drafted post-World War II that, is pre-technology revolution. We have a concentration of wealth today in the world and in this country like we've never seen. And we have Republicans that are set in their ways who say, no universal health care, no reform of the education system. You have Democrats who are demanding that you have universal basic income. I think you have to have